The knock came on a Tuesday afternoon. I almost didn't answer. We weren't expecting anyone. And I was halfway through folding laundry when the doorbell rang again, longer this time. When I opened it, my mother looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was thinner. Her coat hung off her shoulders like it belonged to someone sturdier. She wasn't composed. She wasn't rehearsed. She was shaking. Your dad was. Her voice broke mid-sentence. She pressed her hand to her mouth, trying to steady herself. He was admitted last night. Massive stroke. For a moment, the hallway behind me felt very far away. I could hear my son in the living room, building something out of blocks. My husband's truck pulling into the driveway at the end of his shift. Years collapsed into one narrow doorway. I hadn't seen my mother in 9 years. The last time we stood face to face, I was 19 and pregnant, gripping the edge of our kitchen table while my father's, as if reading from a verdict, his blue-collar job will disgrace our family. He didn't yell. That would have been easier, he just stated it like fact. My mother didn't contradict him. She didn't agree either. She folded her hands and stared at the tablecloth, and Daniel, no, I still think of him as Danny back then, stood beside me in work boots and a faded t-shirt, saying nothing. Not because he didn't have words, but because they wouldn't land. Then I guess I'm leaving, I'd said. I wasn't dramatic. I was terrified. But staying would meant apologizing for a life I hadn't even lived yet. We married at the courthouse 2 weeks later. No white dress. No parents. Just a borrowed bouquet and the steady pressure of his hand around mine. It wasn't romantic in the cinematic sense, it was a decision. The early years were hard in the quiet, practical ways no one posts about. Rent that felt too high. Nights when the baby wouldn't sleep. Arguments about money that weren't really about money. Danny worked long hours wiring new builds, taking extra shifts when he could. He came home tired but present. He learned how to hold a newborn with hands that smelled faintly of metal and sawdust. I finished my degree slowly, one class at a time. Online lectures during nap hours. Papers written after midnight. We didn't thrive immediately. We endured first. My parents never called. No birthday cards. No hospital visits when our son had pneumonia at 2. The absence stopped surprising me after a while. Holidays were the worst, not because I missed them, but because I noticed how thoroughly I'd been erased. And yet, life filled in. Danny built a solid reputation in his trade. Contractors requested him by name. He started his own small company eventually, not flashy, just dependable. I found work in project coordination for a regional firm. Nothing glamorous, just steady. We weren't a disgrace, we were ordinary. Which, I learned, is another word for earned. Now my mother stood at my door, eyes red. They don't know if he'll regain speech, she said. He didn't set up proper directives. They're asking who makes decisions. I understood what she wasn't saying. As his only child, legally, that responsibility could fall to me. Danny stepped inside behind me, taking in the scene without comment. He gave my mother a nod, respectful, not warm. I hadn't realized how much that mattered until then. At the hospital, my father looked smaller too. Machines did most of the speaking for him. Tubes, monitors. A faint rise and fall of his chest. I stood at the edge of the bed for a long time before stepping closer. He opened his eyes once. They moved slowly, unfocused. Then settled, recognition flickered, no apology. No grand reckoning, just awareness. The doctor spoke in clinical terms about recovery odds and timelines. Then he looked at me. We need clarity on who will be coordinating care decisions. Authority isn't loud, it's procedural. My mother glanced at me helplessly. In that moment, I felt 19 again, and nothing like her. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I'll review the documents, I said. We'll make sure everything is handled properly. Not out of obligation. Not to prove anything, but because I could. Later, in the hallway, my mother whispered, "He asked about you. Over the years." He never said it outright, but he kept your old number. That landed somewhere deep and complicated. Pride is a strange disease. It convinces you silence is strength. I don't know if he would have ever reached out. I don't know if I would have answered. What I do know is this: choosing Danny at 19 wasn't rebellion. It wasn't romance. It was choosing the person who stayed when staying cost something. That choice built the life I walked back into that hospital with. We've been visiting twice a week since. No dramatic reconciliation. No erased history. My son met his grandfather yesterday. He held his small hand against my father's still one and asked if he was sleeping. Something like that. I told him. There's no clean ending to this story. Just rooms we enter differently than we left them. I don't regret leaving. But I understand now that independence doesn't cancel grief. It just teaches you how to carry it without asking permission.